requirements. Not much they changed it. So the sergeant, because I had it, I printed out and showed it to a couple of people. So the sergeant said the minimum requirement was a basic peace officer license. And I was one class short of being intermediate. The corporal was intermediate. And then when they announced the next sergeant mine took, it still said basic on there. Oh, really? Yeah.
Hey guys, this is James Cooksey with Belkasoft. I want to thank you all for attending today's presentation. We really do appreciate all of your time and attention with the software. I know that you guys at the NCFI NITRO training class didn't get a lot of instruction, if any, on Belkasoft. You're pretty much just handed the tool. With me today is Jared Lubert, and Jared, like I said, he actually works with us part-time as our sales engineer and tech support for this side of the Atlantic. He's a great resource for you guys to have in your back pocket should you need him. I know he also has a full-time job outside of this, and he also has his own forensic company. Also, one last thing, if you guys, after the end of this presentation, need a little bit more of instruction, know that we do have training available on our website. You can call or email me or Jared, and we can point you to the right directions. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Jared. Jared, it's all yours.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So basically, I'm going to run through a real quick PowerPoint on what Belkasoft X is, types of things that you can expect to achieve utilizing Belkasoft X, and then we'll jump into the product and kind of go through, how it's laid out, how it works, and then I kind of would like questions to feed the rest of the demonstration, maybe something that you'd like to see that maybe I haven't shown you yet. At any point in time, you have any questions, please just yell at me. I'll stop and answer the best I can. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into this PowerPoint quickly. So what is Belkasoft Evidence Center X? It's an all-in-one digital forensic software product. So that's mobile, computer, memory, cloud. There are different editions, but I'm not going to dive into the editions at this point in time. I'm just solely going to focus on kind of like instant investigations and the computer edition of Belkasoft X. So you can acquire hard drives with Belkasoft X in two different formats, either a DD or a RAW or E01. You do have your optional hash calculations with verifications, as well as the option to split your image up into chunks of your choosing. So if you need to transfer an image or something across a low bandwidth network, it's very possible for you to make this chunks as small as you'd like. So this also works on Microsoft tablets. So if you need to do something out in the field, you can use a Microsoft tablet for that. So we do offer a free memory capturing tool. It's called Live RAM Capture, and it can be found at belkasoft.com/get. Again, that's freeware. It's one of the best memory forensic software products in the market right now. So I'm not going to go over the different types of mobile device acquisitions. I am going to kind of very quickly let you see, hey, this is what we have. But I'm going to focus on the computer side of the house. Quick note on the latest update of Belkasoft X. We do support checkmate extractions for the range of iOS devices affected by checkmate, all the way up to iOS version 15.5. On this slide here, something that of note is the virtual machine acquisition. So say you've acquired a computer, a system image. You don't even have to know that a virtual machine is present on that image in order to process it. Belkasoft X will identify there's a virtual machine, pull it out, and allow you to analyze that virtual machine separately from the system image. So that's kind of a really nice feature. And we do support VMware, Virtual PC, VirtualBox, and Zen Server. From the very beginning, we've supported many file systems. So you can see we have APFS, we have Linux, we have Windows, and even Mac in here. We support DMG image files. The cool thing about Belkasoft X is you don't need Belkasoft X while copying or acquiring an image. You can load images created with Atola, FTK, Xways, even Celebrite image files can be loaded in to Belkasoft X for analysis. So also in the latest release of Belkasoft X, we've added the option to acquire devices connected to Tableau devices, so TX1s. All you do is you enter in the IP address of your Tableau device, create a share, and then from there on out, any device that you connect to that Tableau, you can acquire directly through Belkasoft. So you're saving the steps of, imaging directly to a hard drive, and then taking that image from that hard drive, loading it into Belkasoft for analysis. So you can do it directly through the product. So dealing with encryption. So it does have the built-in encryption detection. So holdless encryption, full volume encryption. So things like BitLocker, FileVault, TrueCrypt, PGP, McAfee, all of those things are recognized now. It does require that you have the recovery key or the password for those encrypted file systems. However, it is supported to enter that in there. When it comes to 280 plus file formats that are supported for encryption, we utilize through an integration within the product Passware Forensic Kit. So if it's available and able to decrypt within Passware and you have the file decryption module, you can actually decrypt these files inside of Belkasoft X. So I'm not going to touch on the left-hand side, but you can see the different types of dumps that we do support for mobile devices. And then going into memory on the right-hand side, while we can only acquire Windows memory, we have the ability to mount and analyze Linux and ARM memory dumps, the potential of restoring processes, and then even the potential of detecting suspicious process names or malware inside a process, utilizing the integration of VirusTotal APIs within the product. So out of the box, we support over 1,500 different types of artifacts. We have the ability to carve for free list, the SQLite database. So if it's been marked for deletion, to be listed as free list within the product. We also support write-ahead logs, journal files, and so on, as well as the ability to carve slack space, unallocated space, volume shadow copies, and as I mentioned before, virtual machines. When it comes to picture analysis, we have a few different picture analysis options available. We have face detection, as you can see in the bottom right-hand screen of here. You can also group those faces so that the same faces are compiled together into one folder as opposed to spread across all pictures identified with faces. Skin detection, where we can set sensitivity levels such as low, medium, or more false positives. Pornography detection, gun detection, and text detection. So with the text detection, it utilizes OCR in 50 different languages. So when that's pulled out, those are searchable with the global search feature. And last here is the multiple video stream detection. So if someone's trying to hide a video within a video, Belkasoft X can detect that there are 2 tracks to that video and then show you both of those tracks inside of the product. So I will come back to this screen at the end, but here is just a good contact slide. And again, I'll come back to this at the end, and you guys can screenshot it or whatever you need to do. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the product. Okay, so this is the main screen that you'll see upon selecting the Belkasoft X executable. We have the option to either open a case. I can select open case, and it'll load all cases that I've ever processed on this forensic workstation with Belkasoft X. So it'll say when I created it, what I named it, who the investigator was. But not only that, it'll also show me what data sources I have loaded into my case and how many artifacts that I pulled from that data source. So if you were looking through something and you're trying to remember, hey, I don't remember what data sources I loaded into this case, I can just hover over these data sources and figure out, exactly what that was, and maybe even when it was captured. Creating a case is really simple. You select create case, give it a name, give it a location, set your time zone and your name, and then that's it. It'll ask you to add a data source upon completion of this. I've already got one open, so I'm not going to do this. Going into the settings tab, this is going to be where you're going to tailor the product to make it do what you want it to do. So you'll notice here some slide bars that are on here. That's CPU cores to use and memory cache size for indexing. So Belkasoft automatically detects how many CPUs and how much memory you have in your forensic workstation, and allows you to change how many cores and memory you are allotting to indexing your case. So if you need to speed something up or slow something down based on your workload on your forensic workstation, that can be done right here. We did have somebody have a 64-core Threadripper and was able to dedicate 62 of those cores to indexing and said it was very fast. So it's just a really, really neat feature on here to allow you to tailor the speed at which you index your case. Right underneath this, we have check for updates automatically. You don't have to check this. If you want to check for updates manually, you just click check updates. You also have the option to always open the last case, but personally, I prefer going to open case and selecting whatever case I want to open. Next is appearance. So you can change the language inside of the entire product. So this will change the entire user interface to that specific language. And you can change the font size to be greater or smaller than where we're at. We do have a dark theme and a light theme. I'm currently in the dark theme. And this is also where you will be going to change your date and time formats within the user interface, and as well as default encoding if you need to do that. Analysis profiles. So this is basically just a profile that's created to speed up your indexing or processing of your case. So if I'm constantly doing a Windows machine and I know I always want to say like system files, maybe I want to grab system event logs, USB connected devices, and so on. I can set that up one time, save that profile, and then the next time I'm going to do a Windows machine, I can just select the Windows profile and start. So I don't have to go through selecting individual artifacts each time. Bookmarks. So this is where you come to change your category names. Now these are categories, they're not the actual bookmarks. So you'll notice there's 10 categories. So I can have 5,000 bookmarks under one category if I wanted to. But this is where you'll come to change your category name. The colors and the hotkeys remain the same though. Carving. So if you want to carve for, maybe fragmented files or shredded files that may be in unallocated space or slack space or somewhere on the disk from previous files or artifacts, you can do that from here. So you would select either add or edit an existing carving artifact. So I go to edit here. This is kind of just an example of how there was evidence of a shredded Bitcoin wallet on a system image where I found a common characteristic of that Bitcoin wallet within the header and threw that into this carving signature. Next is pictures. So this is where you're going to come to set up your sensitivity levels, whether or not you want to blur pictures that are detected as pornography, as well as if you want to unblur the faces so you can see who's in the picture without actually seeing the rest of the picture. So all that can be done under the Pictures tab within the settings, and as well as skipping those nuisance system images that just kind of populate your artifacts tab. So if you find a common size, you can just skip pictures that are less than that specific size. So moving into video, say I have a long video and I don't want to watch the whole thing, or I just don't have time to watch the whole thing. I can split this thing up to, hey, show me this many frames per second, or break it up by frame similarity. So only show me when the frame changes. So you'll set those levels right here with the slide bar. And finally, this is where you'll come to set up your VirusTotal API. If you have a premium key, you can put this in here. But again, this just allows you to check and see if there's anything on your data source that may be a known malware or malicious. And so I'll show you when we get into the file system viewer how we can actually analyze entire data sources or individual files with VirusTotal. So that is what I have for the settings tab. It should be pretty straightforward and simple. Next, moving into the product reference guide. This is going to be a 277-page user help guide. So you can Control F. You can it's hyperlinks. So if you go to the table of contents, you can pick and choose what it is that you need help with. But that's a really good resource right there inside the product for you. Again, manually checking for updates. It'll let you know if you're on the latest version or not. You do have to have an internet connection to test this. And then in between here, these are quick tutorial videos. So if you are running into an issue on any of these items, these are about 2 to 5 minute tutorial videos voiced over by James, kind of get you set in the right direction. Over here on the license information, this is going to give you your key ID, when your support expires, available modules, the ones that you have, and also the ones that you don't have. So those will be over in the not available modules. So that is what I have for the home screen of Belkasoft X. And again, at any point in time, if there are any questions, please just shout at me. Moving over into the dashboard. So this is going to be, where you have your actions pane, where you create your global searches, you add your data, you create reports. All that's going to be done from the dashboard. So if you look up in the top left corner, I have my case properties, what I name the case, who's investigating, my time zone, and at any point in time, I can add notes to this case. So if I, have an idea like mid-examination or I need to jot something down, I can put those notes in here and they will be saved right here. Also on the left-hand side, the actions pane. This is where I can add a data source. So there's actually 2 spots where I can add a data source within Belkasoft X. On the left-hand side, where it says Add Data Source under Actions, as well as this little blue bubble in the top right-hand corner. They will do the same thing. So I will start with Add Data Source. So if I need to acquire something, a computer image or a computer, I would just do Acquire Disk Drive. It's going to query connected drives to my forensic workstation, and which I can choose physical or logical, pick out my artifacts, maybe assign a profile as I was talking about, and then acquire that system image. Now, also that Tableau device that I was talking about, so I can specify its IP address, connect to its share, and then from there it'll automatically detect a storage device that's connected, which you can then acquire through Belkasoft X. Mobile, just to show you the workflow real quick, you can choose a picture or go by a chipset or a model number. All that can be typed in right here. Let's just say iPhone 7. I pick all the different types. I can see all the different types of acquisition options available for both Android and iPhone. Going back into cloud, these are our cloud options. So we can acquire email, the Google Suite, iCloud, the last 4 iCloud backups, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Microsoft Office 365. Okay, now say I've acquired a system image or something with another product. I'll go to Add Existing Image, and then it's going to bring up this little browser Explorer bar for me. And looking at this list here, you can see all the different types of images that are supported to be loaded within Belkasoft X. So it's kind of a we play well with others here. Same for mobile images, all the different types of mobile images that are supported. And memory dumps, we support .mems, page files, and hyperfill files. So that is how you load your evidence into Belkasoft X. From there, you'll start seeing your data sources populate in the center of your screen. So you'll notice here that we have our data sources in white text, and some are in gray text with little appended data sources to it. So those are nested data sources. So we found a page file and 2 Android backups within our E01 file that we loaded in. So we can drop that down and see those artifacts from that particular Android backup separately from our E01 file. Now we can also choose to hide those nested data sources because ultimately they are present within this E01. They're just not broken out. So moving over to the left-hand side under Actions, our next option is Search Artifacts. So this is where we're going to come to do that global search where we enter in a word or a phrase. We can treat that word or phrase as regular expression. Also adding a word list. You just come here, browse to your word list file, and you can treat that word list file as regular expression. We also keep a running list of predefined searches. So if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, we have items such as these that are constantly being updated with each update. And so it may not give you exactly what you need, but at least put you in the right direction. We also have the ability to pick and choose what data sources we actually want to search across. So if we know out of all of our data sources that we have loaded that we're really only interested in searching through this E01 file, I can go into my artifact types as well and say, okay, all of these artifacts are present in my E01 file. So if I go back as an example and select this memory dump to be the only thing I search through, the only artifacts available are going to be, what's present in that mem dump. So we're not wasting time searching all of our data sources at one time. We can really narrow our search with this method. Next option is creating a report. So these are our available target formats. You see that we have a Semantics 21, Project VIX 1.3 and 2.0 support, Google Earth overlay support, HTML, PDF, XML, CSV, EML, and so on. So underneath that is the target folder. Where do you want to save your report? I always choose open the report when done because sometimes, I don't know, maybe my head's not screwed on completely, but I forget where I saved my report. And so it's always helpful that it pops up on the screen when it's done processing. Now, going into advanced options, this is how we're going to really fine tune our report. We can do item sorting. We can have header and footer text. We can change the orientation, put our name on the report. Go over to style. We add our company logo or our department logo. Split in groups, so we can split our files up to one file or one file per artifact type. We can also separate artifacts by mail folders or profiles or contacts. All of that can be done from right here. Moving into files, we have the option to include files that we found during our investigation in our report. So here we choose copy embedded files or attachments into the target folder. So if we're doing an HTML report, that link is going to link back to these pictures. So whoever's reviewing the report can review these pictures. We can also choose to copy the original files into the target folder, as well as pictures detected as pornography, and to blur those pictures. And you can set a standard size for the pictures that you want in your report. Next is columns. So this is going to be where we're really going to pick and choose what we want on our report. So, if we're interested in, say, documents, selecting documents will give me all of these available columns just for the document artifacts. And so I can pick and choose what columns I want to be included in my report. And those will actually be pushed over by highlighting one and moving it to the right, or I can do all of them by hitting the double arrow over to the right. And then how I want it displayed. So if I want my file name to be the first thing in my report, first column in my report, I would move it up to the top with these up or down arrows. So next is folders, where you have the option to include subfolders or not include subfolders. Okay, so that was creating a report. Export to evidence reader. This is actually going to, in this location, grab all of your artifacts and put it into a free version of Belkasoft X where you can send it to, somebody else to look through, to tag, to bookmark, and that sort of stuff. However, whoever gets this data can't add to it and they can't subtract from it. So they can't add or remove artifacts from this. You're only allowing somebody to view the artifacts for themselves. So it's just like, like other forensic products have some sort of viewer or reader. That's what this is for Belkasoft X. And you can choose to install a copy of the executable into the target folder. So whenever somebody selects that executable, it opens up, they can browse to the case file that's created, and they can look at what you're looking at. And again, let me jump into this real quick because this just changed in the latest version of Belkasoft X. If I wanted to only share specific artifacts and not the entire case, I would come into my artifacts tab, make sure I'm under structure, where it breaks each data source out individually. And then I can pick and choose profiles to share. So, if I want, let's say, Emily Brent's Gmail to be the only thing that I'm sharing, I can just check that profile, right click, export checked profiles to evidence reader, where I can then, choose to save my media files or copy that executable into that target folder for whoever to look at. So that's where you'll pick and choose what you want to share if you want to share it. Moving back to the dashboard, creating a key dictionary. This is really helpful if you say you have a mobile image or another computer image and you need a password to brute force another device that you have. So this is basically going to do a strings of all of your data sources and create a dictionary file with potential passwords. You can then use that dictionary file to try to brute force that other device. Prepare log files. This is going to be done if you're running into issues within the product. So these log files will just create a zip when you select this. You can send that zip file to me or to support@belkasoft.com, and they'll be able to walk you through, hey, this is what's happening within your product, and this is why may not be working how you think it should be. So that's all right there. Next is automatic searches, and so like it sounds, it happens automatically. You don't have to use any of these. These are all based on regular expression. So as an example, if I select email addresses, you can see that it pulled out anything that matches something at something dot something. And so looking down here, you can see like conversion rates, US dollar at 1.0093. So it matched that regular expression. So just know that these things happen automatically. They're there if you want to use them. But even if you didn't select for it to happen, the results are going to be there at the bottom of your dashboard every single time. Over on the right-hand side, this is going to show, application types. So this is going to be the highest number of artifacts per application. So Opera here has the most artifacts per application. I can scroll down in this list and find out that my lowest number of artifacts per application is my Wi-Fi connections. Now, if we're speaking strictly artifacts and not really an application, pictures take the cake for the highest number of artifacts. And same thing, I scroll to the bottom, and we have, yes, one artifact from a Wi-Fi connection, which matches our application artifact types. So these can be viewed in these cool little circle charts that give you percentages. So if you need to say, hey, out of all these data sets I've added, I've got about 19% Opera artifacts on here. So that can be done. Same thing down here with the artifacts. But also these are hyperlinks. So if I want to jump directly into my artifacts tab from here or even here, I can select these artifacts and just dive right into the artifacts tab. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to jump to, say, location data. And so now I'm in the location data tab of the artifacts. So with this, what I can do is I can say, okay, this. I'm in my artifacts tab real quick. Because this is geolocation data, I can right click, show checked items on map, and it'll show me the tracks data that I've just selected. So you can even potentially, recreate a path of track data built into this product. we can right click and create a report. It'll give us a little snapshot of these artifacts on the map. Another really cool feature is we can right click and show checked items on Google Earth. So if you have Google Earth installed on your forensic workstation, it'll take these points and bring them down to a satellite image view where you can zoom in as well. So it's just another neat little feature that's built into Belkasoft X. Now, I briefly mentioned about on the left-hand side of my artifacts tab, the structure and the overview. So overview is actually going to be a combination of all of my data sources. So all of these guys right here, the artifacts will show up combined in my overview tab right here. Again, if I want individual, just as I was looking at here, I could go to the structure tab. So I can narrow down, hey, I only want to look through my E01 file. Better yet, I only want to dig down into one of those Android backups that was found on that E01 file. So this is how I'm going to be, detailed on saying, okay, I only want chats from this Android backup. However, an easy way to also do this is if I'm in overview and I select chats, and let me go ahead and clear some filters here. Say this chat is interesting to me. I can select that chat, right click, and then actually find out where that came from by doing either a show on structure, or I can come down here on the bottom right hand side and see the origin path. So I can tell that this came out of the E01 file and it actually came from the volume itself. So that's one way to kind of jump back and forth. Looking at file downloads, selecting, again, just any of those artifacts, and we can see show on structure. I can jump there and it'll bring me to that specific artifact and where it's located on my structure tab. So that's kind of some ways that you can navigate between the structure and the overview tab. Now, going through like system files, these are going to be important in like instant investigations and so on. So the system files tab right here in the overview portion of our artifacts tab will show us things such as, like app and DLLs, connected USB devices, network settings, where we can see like IP addresses, applications set to run at startup, and so on. So that's just something that you guys are probably going to be interested in during this training portion. So now that I've kind of given an overview on the overview and structure of the artifacts, I kind of want to jump into the different type of viewers that are available. So where are we at right now? We are currently looking at downloaded files in our overview. So looking at this at the bottom, you can see a hex viewer. We can expand this hex viewer to make it larger. We can expand our properties tab over here on the right to make it larger, or we can have our artifact view a little bit larger and pop out this hex viewer into its own screen. And so I can highlight something, I can bookmark something I think is important. I can go to bookmarks here and edit, and I can actually make descriptions, why I thought this particular chunk of hex was important, so I don't forget about it. But more importantly, maybe I'm like 3/4 of the way through this hex file and I need to get back to my other bookmark. I can just select my bookmark and go to that bookmark, and it'll show me, where that other bookmark is located. I also have the option to jump to a specific offset. I also have the option to search through the hex with either for text or hex. So that all can be done from here. Closing out the hex viewer, also have built-in SQLite viewer, which again, you can pop out to its own screen and browse the data of all of these tables within the SQLite database, as well as the structure of the SQLite database. So moving into pictures, we can see things such as, our face detection, gun detection, pornography detection, scan and text. So taking a look at our pictures that went for text during analysis, we can see like this PDF. So this particular, or this JPEG, it's just a picture of a book page. So we can look at the item text. And so all the text was pulled out. So if we were to do a search for, say, like the word assuming or bulge, we could search back on the dashboard, search artifacts, search for the word bulge, and it would be found here. Go ahead and cancel that. It'll be found here on this particular picture. Not only that, you can view the picture. We do have built-in picture viewers, so I can double-click it. We still have all of our property tags on the right-hand side. Each of these can be copied by selecting and right-clicking. So if you need to save any of these items, you can certainly do that from here. And there is our built-in picture viewer. Now moving into documents. So the documents will be located here. We can see how many different files are a part of that particular PDF. If there's any sort of embedded files in that PDF, those will be found here as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into, let's go ahead and go to our Instant Investigations module. So this is a module, I believe, that's available to you all, that pulls out common artifacts during an instant investigation, such as downloaded files, evidence of execution, so like your shim cache, methods of persistence, so applications that are set to run at startup, services that are running, appended DLLs, scheduled tasks, and so on, as well as recent files. And so if there are artifacts for these particular categories of artifacts in your instant investigation, they'll be populated in the instant investigation viewer. And again, in this screen, we have the same option of expanding our SQLite database or hex view and all of that into its own screen. Over here on the right-hand side in the properties, again, all of this can be copied and if you want, just by right-clicking. But the origin path, the profile path, all that stuff is going to be important during the investigation. And again, you can change the layout on how you want everything to be viewed. Moving into the file system. So this is the file system viewer. Going into, say, like E01. If I just select E01, it's going to just show me what is underneath that E01 file because I'm in grid view. I can put this into recursive view, and this is going to show me everything that falls under the E01. Recently updated the filtering within Belkasoft X. So if I want to search for, say, PDFs in this E01, I would just come down here to name. And then I have different operands. So it does contain this, or it does not contain this. It ends with this, or it starts with this. It is or is not, or is in. All of those things can be chosen right here. I could then put, say, hey, somewhere in the name is PDF. Selecting that will show me all PDFs that are present within the E01 file that I've pulled. I can check all of these, right-click, and copy these files to a folder. I can analyze items with VirusTotal, which brings me kind of into my next one. So if I don't want to look through the entire data source for something that may be malicious, or if I want to run this and go do something else, I certainly can. So I'll just say, hey, this E01 file, just analyze the whole system image with VirusTotal. So it's going to take all those hashes and compare them to see if there's any known malicious files present on VirusTotal that are present on your system image. But this does work all the way down to a single file. So I can right-click and analyze checked image or checked item with VirusTotal. So that can all be done from here. Next, let's go ahead and jump into the connection graph. And so the connection graph is really cool. Let me go ahead and reset the defaults and apply this. Scroll out a little bit. So right now it looks really busy. So what I always like to do is turn my titles off and then say, okay, only show me top talkers. So people who have at least had 8 communications. Okay, so now I've kind of got this this idea of who's talking to who, but I've also kind of got this ring of connection, right? So this Yahoo email address, Sebastian and Mary Poppins, they've all communicated to each other at some point in time. So what's really cool about this is if I select Sebastian, over on the left-hand side, you can see all things that Belkasoft X knows about that particular person or that node. So like their name, their telephone number, their identifier, their nicknames, all of that stuff can be found over here on the left-hand side. And selecting Mary Poppins, same thing. I've got her information on the left-hand side. Now, if I want to figure out what is connecting Mary Poppins and Sebastian, I can do that. So I select this little line here between the two of them. Go ahead and bring this over a little bit. And now I can see that these chat messages specifically are connecting Mary Poppins to Sebastian. Not only chats, but also emails. And so I can look at these artifacts from this location as well. I don't have to jump back to my artifacts tab in order to view these. So I can right click, I can choose columns to see, okay, I want all of these items from email to be included in my columns over here on the right hand side, as well as how I want them displayed. I can look at the hex viewer from this location, the SQLite database that is going to hey, show me what the subject, show me what the message is, and so on, all from right here in the connection graph. If this is important to me, if this picture is important to me, I can actually turn my titles back on. Let's go ahead and filter by nodes and neighbors though with Mary Poppins, so we slim it down. I can right click, create report, and it'll take a snapshot of this connection graph, which will be included in your report. So that's a connection graph. It's a really, really neat feature. Now, moving back to the artifacts, because I wanted to show you our mini timeline feature. So let me go ahead and let's just go to system files and let's do connected USB devices. So I now have my connected USB devices present in my artifact viewer. Again, if I want to look at those in the registry, I could do that at the bottom of my little registry viewer. I can, again, pop it out to a full screen. If you look at the bottom, you can see a path of where I'm at inside the registry, so you can't get lost, and you can actually jump back to specific locations. But I'm in here. Now I'm in my artifacts tab, and I want to see a mini timeline in use. So we see this first install time, and some of these are looking like 2013. In fact, it looks like a lot of these are 2013. So I'm going to do just roughly May of 2013 here. So this is my mini timeline at the top, this little bar right here with the little green graph bars. So just guessing, I'm going to click and drag right here. And now what's going to happen is it's going to take all of my artifacts and give them like some sort of time, right? And so these little tildes next to my artifact count, that's saying, hey, there's roughly this many artifacts present from my date range that I selected up in my mini timeline. Again, that was a click and drag. So if you're in a rush, you can just go say, okay, I know what I'm looking for happened in 2017. I can click and drag and weed out a bunch of my artifacts to only show me stuff that happened in roughly 2017. Now, if I want to clear this date range, I can just single click in my mini timeline and it'll bring everything back. If I want a more detailed filter for a date range, I'll just go up to my global filter in the top right-hand corner and select that date range. So I believe we were saying 2013, 2013, and let's go May 1st, and then a to date, May, and let's say 31st. So now we're only going to get May, apply, and so that's how we'll set our very strict date range within the product. Now, there are a lot of filters that can be applied in our artifacts, and they're all going to be dependent on what type of artifact it is. So if I click on my email and I right click, I would be able, they'll be up here. I would have to pick and choose, okay, these particular filters apply to mail. If I go to chat messages and I right click, add or remove filters, you see, okay, only show me ones that have attachments, only show me ones that have been deleted, who participated. So you can kind of filter and weed out your chats and all of that. But even for like message, right? So if you're looking for contains, it's going to have your same operands where you can choose all of these different options and then put in your keyword to search, and it'll filter out your items. So that kind of touches on the different types of viewers and the filters. But up here in the upper left-hand corner, I call this my hamburger or my pancakes. This is going to be where I go to open up all my different viewers. So the ones that are lined up here on the top. So you can see we also have plist viewers, our task tabs, registry, hex viewers, file system viewers, connection graphs, our bookmark tab. All of that stuff can be found up there in my hamburger. Now, let's talk about bookmarking artifacts real quick. So this one's important to me. I highlighted, I right click it, and I can just bookmark checked items. I can create a new bookmark. I can assign it a category that I may have renamed in my settings tab. And then I can name that bookmark to be something like, geolocation data or pictures I like or USB stuff. So that is kind of how you tag things. If you need to create a report directly from your bookmarks, you can right click and check all those profiles and then create a report for checked profiles. So you'll only get a report on your bookmarks. And finally here, I'm going to pull up a timeline. So this is the bar graph view. I rarely use this personally, but I can right click on these bars and it'll give me a date range as well as these artifacts. If I select them, it'll take me to that specific artifact location on my artifacts tab. I typically go up here to the upper right-hand corner and choose grid view or list, and it gives me this timeline that I can actually use a little bit better. I can do filters, filter by data source, the event type, who it came from. I can filter for specific text in the timeline, and so on. So not only that, but I can right-click, choose columns, and choose how I want my timeline presented. It's also important to note that in this location, you can see UTC time and local time. So you have those time options available. Also, say I click on, say, time, choose columns, and I want to change the format. Let's say we go into artifacts, chats. Let's go SQLite database, pop this open. Now, see this date here? I can actually click this date if it's going to let me do it. Choose column type, and then I can change that time frame right here. So if this doesn't make sense to me, let's go ahead and move it to Unix time UTC. And now I actually have a readable date and time in my SQLite database. So that's a really neat feature as well. Instead of having to pull that that timestamp out, throwing it into something like decode date to get that information. That is pretty much what I have, and we have roughly 10 minutes for questions. Maybe you want me to touch on something that I didn't touch on, or you want more clarification on something. I will take time for questions now. And while we're waiting on questions, if you have them, you can either shout at me or message me if you don't want to shout them out. I'm going to pull this PowerPoint back up. That way you can screenshot this information if you'd like. James is the sales contact up here, jc@belkasoft.com. I am support, jl@belkasoft.com. And then if you need to contact me directly, this is my phone number. So if you're running into any sort of technical issues or have questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly.
Exactly. And thank you again, Jared. I appreciate it. Not that I'm cutting this short, but I wanted to make sure that I saw a couple people drop off, that if you guys are interested at all, like I said, in getting some additional training, we do have some classes and certification available to you. If for any reason, like several others that I've talked to who have taken the NITRO class, that you find the software a bit limited and you'd like to upgrade it so that it can include the mobile devices or some of the other items, we can definitely get you set up with that as well. And that would be my contact information there, JC at Belkasoft, and you can reach me at that 650 number. I want to make sure that you're all able to get unmuted here. If you aren't, let me know and hit the comment section for you, and I'll unmute you if you can't do it yourself. All right. Well, if nothing else, again, Jared, I really do appreciate you taking the time to facilitate this presentation for him. Everybody else, again, thank you all very much for taking the time to sit through this demonstration. Hopefully this will be enough to really get you going on your NITRO investigations. Again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns with licensing or sales or pricing or renewals, please contact me. If you have any technical questions or want how-to kind of questions, definitely reach out to Jared. We'd love to help you out in any way we can. Again, really do appreciate you all. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic holiday weekend.